All right, let's dive right into a real constitutional showdown. It's one of those classic power struggles, the president versus Congress. And at the very heart of it is a huge question. Who really has the final say in our government?
I mean, really think about it for a second. When the president picks someone for a big job, is that it? Is it a done deal? Or does someone else, another part of the government, get to have a say? Well, this exact question ended up right in front of the Supreme Court. So here's the setup. The president appoints a guy named Salvador Meissen to be the head of the Bureau of Customs. It seems straightforward, right? But then Congress's Commission on Appointments basically throws up a stop sign. They say, whoa, hold on a minute. We have to confirm that appointment. The president says, no, you don't. And bam, just like that, you've got a full-blown constitutional standoff.
Okay, so who's right here, the president or Congress? To figure this out, we've got to put on our detective hats. And our main piece of evidence, clue number 1, is right there in the official rulebook, the 1987 Constitution itself.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The wording is, well, it's a bit tricky. The first part says the president appoints with the consent of this commission. Simple enough. But then the very next sentence says he shall also appoint all these other officers. So what does also mean? Does it mean he appoints them the same way, with consent? Or does it create a whole separate category of appointments that don't need anyone's approval? I mean, the entire case, literally the whole thing, comes down to how you read that one little word.
So the Supreme Court has to step in and play referee. Now, their job isn't to pick a winner. It's to go back to the rulebook and figure out what the people who wrote the rules actually meant. What was the original intent of the framers when they put those words on paper? The first thing the court did was break down this, kind of dense legal text into 4 clear groups of appointees. First up, you got the bigwigs, heads of departments, ambassadors, top military brass. The Constitution is super clear here. They definitely need confirmation. Then there's a second group, all other officers not provided for by law. A third group is anyone the president is allowed to appoint because a law says so. And finally, group 4, lower-ranking officers. Okay, so this is the absolute core of the mystery the court had to unravel. Does Congress only get to approve that first group, the real top-tier officials, or was this confirmation thing meant to cover pretty much everyone the president appoints? And just reading the text, it's really not obvious. To find the answer, the court couldn't just look at the words. They had to look back. You see, laws like this, especially parts of the Constitution, they don't just appear out of nowhere. They're almost always a reaction to something that happened before. So if you want to understand the words, you absolutely have to understand the history. And wow, what a history it is. It's like a pendulum swinging back and forth. You look at the 1935 Constitution, and it was scrutiny overload. Almost every appointment needed a sign-off, which, as you can imagine, led to a lot of political horse trading. Then boom, the pendulum swings all the way the other way with the 1973 Constitution. No scrutiny at all. The president had total, absolute power to appoint anyone. So the folks writing the 1987 Constitution, they were staring at these two extremes and desperately trying to find a smart, stable middle ground.
So with that history in mind, the court goes digging into the archives. They start reading the actual debates, the transcripts of what the framers were saying as they wrote the Constitution. Think of it like witness testimony. And what they found in there, well, it was the smoking gun.
It turns out the very first draft of this section was basically a copy-paste job from the old 1935 Constitution. And in that version, it was spelled out. Heads of bureaus were on the list of jobs that needed confirmation from Congress. No question about it. But then, everything changed. In the middle of the debates, one of the framers stood up and made a suggestion. Let's get rid of 2 words, and bureaus. They took a vote, and it passed. They were deliberately, consciously deleted from the text. This wasn't some typo or an oversight. It was a choice. So why? Why make that tiny little edit? The records tell us exactly why. One of the commissioners, a man named Foz, basically said that if we make heads of bureaus get confirmed, they'll be dragged into politics. It would lead to that same old horse trading they were trying to escape from. So they took out those words for one specific reason: to limit the power of the commission on appointments. And that brings us all the way back to that one little word, also. The people challenging the appointment said also means in the same way. He appoints the first group with confirmation, and he also appoints the second group in the same way. But the court, now that they had all this history, they said nope. Also means in addition to. As in, the president appoints the first group with confirmation, and in addition to that, he has the power to appoint this other group, and for them, no confirmation needed.
So the verdict comes down. Salvador Milson was the head of the Bureau of Customs. That makes him a head of a bureau, the exact job title the framers had intentionally deleted from the confirmation list. The conclusion was unavoidable. Milson's appointment was perfectly valid, and he didn't need Congress's approval. Case closed.
Now, this ruling wasn't just about Mr. Milson or the Bureau of Customs. Not at all. It was so much bigger than that. It drew a really clear line in the sand about the separation of powers, a line that still defines how our government works today. So, what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, the power to appoint is at its core the president's job. Second, if you're going to limit that power, it has to be spelled out explicitly in the Constitution. No guessing games. And third, the court made it clear that the framers knew exactly what they were doing. They deliberately shrank the power of the Commission on Appointments to stop the political deal-making they'd seen in the past.
And that really leaves us with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? In their effort to fix the problems of the past, did the framers and the Supreme Court get the balance exactly right? Is this the perfect mix of presidential power and legislative oversight? Or did that pendulum maybe swing a little too far? It's a fundamental debate about checks and balances, and it's one that's still very much alive today.